Well, hey there, Kath Langman here. Welcome back to another episode of the Scale My Shopify Store podcast. So today, my question for you is your business amazing yet? And if not, what do you need to do to get it to amazing? Now, I know this past month has felt quite chaotic and unpredictable. We've had the highs of the Afterpay Day promo. That was a massive high for a lot of you. But then, we've had some lows as well. There've been a whole bunch of changes that Facebook have rolled out to the Meta ads platform, for example, wreaking all kinds of havoc and destabilising ads. And, it's been we are now coming into Easter and holidays, and it's a time that's typically not the highest consumer demand anyway. And I know that a few of you have been feeling quite anxious as a result. And I know that because you've reached out to tell me. Now, first of all, in a large part, it's probably not something that you've done to cause that to happen. At the same time, though, you absolutely need to react to it. And as we draw to the end of the first quarter of this year, 2024, it really is time now to do a quarterly review and to assess what's happened so far this week, what worked, what didn't work, and figure out what you need to do next in your business. But I want to share this with you in a fun way today. So today I have 5 questions or short exercises really for you that are really going to help guide you through that quarterly review so that you can squeeze the absolute maximum value out of all of your efforts this year so far. You do not want to waste any potential learning value from what you have done. Trust me on that. So this week I've actually been binge listening to a podcast that I recently discovered. It's not a new podcast, I don't think, but I only recently discovered it, and it's called How I Made It. And it's produced by the Australian Financial Review. And that possibly makes it sound a little bit boring, but I promise you it's not. The host is a journalist by the name of Julianne Sprague, I think is how you pronounce her name. And she's just one of those people who has one of the most beautiful voices that you could listen to her for days and not get bored. And she interviews various hugely successful entrepreneurs from around Australia. I think it's mostly Australian anyway. And there's a whole season of episodes featuring female entrepreneurs, which is what I've been binge listening to, and it's so good. Anyway, there were 2 episodes that I listened to this week that really did inspire me to share some insights and ideas with you today, in particular that we can relate to this, moment of doing a quarterly review. So one was an interview with Carolyn Cresswell, who's the founder of Carmen's Muesli, and the other was an interview with Tanya Austin, who many years ago was a co-founder of Cotton On, but more recently is the founder and sole owner of the fashion chain De Cuba. And the ideas of theirs that I'm going to share with you today, they just really resonated with me. And they're also just, like I suggested, they're super relevant with this time of year, coming to the end of the first quarter of the year. And by the end of this episode, I think you're going to have a few actions that you can take and implement immediately and, to really go ahead and do a productive, useful quarterly review that will help set you on the path for your next 90 days. That 90-day planning cycle, we've spoken about it on the show before, and definitely something that I subscribe to, but you have to go ahead and do this review, right? Now, so like I said, I'm going to share 5 of these ideas or sentiments or quotes from these 2 fabulous entrepreneurial women, and then kind of share with you how I would relate to relate this to your quarterly review. And so the first one comes from Tanya Austin of De Cuba, and she talks about how integral having a really concise core focus and vision for your business. And no, I should have actually written down what she said hers was. I'm not going to remember it off the top of my head. I'll probably bastardize it. it's like something along the lines of making their core focus and vision is to make women or help women to look and feel amazing every day or something like that. But I guess she uses this as essentially like the lens through which you assess all of what you do and all new ideas and all new opportunities in order to make decisions. And it's also essentially the reaction that you want your customers to feel about your business and your brand, right? And so how I want you to think about this when you are trying to articulate this for yourself as an e-commerce store is to think about your brand or your online store as the go-to place for your customers to get XYZ, so you need to work out what that is for you, and to be able to articulate it in such a simple, elegant sentence. When you can really, really refine that core focus and vision down to such a simple, articulated sentence like that, you're going to end up, being able to, first of all, write better copy for your marketing and for your advertising. You're going to choose the right products and make the right products that help your customers, within that remit. You're going to be able to, run better promotions that really resonate with your audience. You're going to be able to, make decisions down the track, whether it's, stocking into certain retail stores or opening premises if you have brick and mortar, or, whether it's collaborating with other people or other brands or specialists or whatever. Like, what is your brand stand for? What is the benefit that your specific customers get when they come to your store? So really being able to finish that sentence, your brand is the go-to store for your customers. So what is that customer avatar to get XYZ? XYZ can be a specific benefit. It could be a specific type of product category. Or, think in terms of Decuba, who, Decuba exists to help women in Australia to look and feel amazing every day. They're not like your glamorous high-end designer range. It's an everyday range. But, they're really targeting, everyday women to look, enable them to look and feel amazing every day. And so, their store locations, their pricing, their product designs that they stock, all of this kind of stuff, they make these decisions through the lens of that core focus. And so really then being able to keep your customers at the center of that vision is critical. Caroline Cresswell quotes Sam Walton from Walmart, who says, "There is only one boss, the customer, and he or she can fire everyone from the chairman on down simply by spending his money somewhere else." And so, as Caroline says, being customer-centric in your decisions is, that it means that your focus is always on what your customers want now. And of course, by extension, not what they wanted a year ago, not what your stockists might suggest they want, not what the free opinions that you might canvass from a free Facebook group might suggest. And if you have ever caught yourself saying, and I know some of you have said this to me in recent times, that I'm doing everything I was doing a year ago, so why am I not getting the same results? And, certainly March 2024 across the board pretty much has been very different results from March 2023. You just can't keep doing the same thing that you were doing before and hope for the same results, because the world around you has changed, right? So, that core focus and vision might stay the same, but the way that you deliver that to your customers has to move with the times, right? So first step is to articulate that for yourself. Second one is from Tanya Austin from Decuba, and I loved this one. So she just comes across as such a down-to-earth human being, but also a real go-getter. And I mean, clearly she's achieved some enormous success in her business life and in her career. But she says plan B, she was something like always have a plan B, and plan B is to make sure that plan A is foolproof, and which is kind of a silly and funny statement to make, of course. But what she means by that is that in actual fact, to have the big success more quickly, and she has, like, literally in the last, I think maybe 15 years, she's gone, you know, from the starting line to 140 stores around the country, and in New Zealand as well. And you know, that's really quick considering it's all self-funded. You know, other chain stores that expand that quickly generally have investors pumping a lot of money in, and Dacuba has not done that. And so, you know, to be able to grow that quickly and successfully, and you know, still be in business and not, you know, fall over into bankruptcy because your cash flow is so rubbish, you know, you have to be really careful about how you are operating, right? And so it's no surprise really that she is a planner. But what she says though is that if you take the time to plan thoroughly in advance, then your implementation will be far more efficient. And so I know, and look, I fall into this pitfall a bit from time to time, but I know many others do a lot, that it can feel like you know, if you're busy, it can feel like you just don't have the time to sit down and actually spend the time to review all of your results and to analyze all of that data and to make the plans, the solid plans for what you're going to do next. You know, not just I'm going to do social media, not just I'm going to do some emails, like literally what kind of content are you going to publish? When are you going to publish it? What specific products are you launching? How are you going to launch that? You know, what is the step-by-step that makes up each of these, you know, parts of the plan? Really itemize that plan out and, you know, be thorough about your planning, and, you know, also be looking at the potential pitfalls as well as the upsides. You know, I think it's really fun. It's always fun to plan, you know, what is the growth strategies that you're going to implement, for example, and, you know, promotions and things like that that are going to make you more money. But also, you know, thinking about, okay, well, what is the potential downside of choosing this? And the downside could be, you know, potentially, you know, it's going to take this amount of time, and you know, that time is going to take you away from something else, right? And so or other decisions, whether it's, you know, investing in new products or a new website or whatever the case may be, what could possibly go wrong? Is that a risk that you can take versus, you know, the potential upside? And be making those assessments based on the monetary inputs as well as your time inputs, particularly if you are, you know, a solo entrepreneur at this point or working with a small team. You know, time is incredibly valuable as well, right? So, but taking that time to do this planning, and like you've heard me say, I like to do this I do like to plan ahead for the year and towards 3 years, but also in the detail, it's this 90-day planning cycle that I find so valuable to then, you know, be able to move into the implementation phase far more efficiently. And typically what I find as well, by taking this time to do this kind of planning and to be, you know, super thorough about it, it also helps you to be able to delegate and start bringing in some help. So whether that is bringing in a VA or whether it's, you know, bringing in other team members or contractors or whatever, because, you know, the plans are detailed out, but also, you know, in doing that planning, you've got an idea of what needs to happen every week, every day, every week, every month, etc. And you can have that kind of process in place then. You know, there's, you know, certain meeting cadences, there's, you know, almost like aiming to automatize things that happen on a regular basis, so then you don't have to think about it all the time, right? And that's how the implementation becomes a lot more efficient, but also you know, efficient as well as accurate, so that you can get those results that you want more quickly. The next one, again, this is from Tanya Austin from Dacuba. Apparently she has a sign, a neon sign in her head office, and I did see images of this online, I think the neon sign either just says amazing, or it's her question, is it amazing yet? And again, this is the question that she asks herself, but she asks all of her team members, and it's not necessarily a criticism. It's just, is it as good as it can be? And, when you think about, the previous step was about, planning thoroughly so that then implementation can be more efficient and accurate. But at the end of the day, great execution does need attention to detail. You can't be sloppy about things. Also, is it amazing yet? Tanya relates this to promotions that they're running. She talks about, I think there was like a particular tote bag product that they introduced, and the sales from that particular product went towards their charitable foundation. And she talked about how the sales were good, but they weren't great. And so this question, is it amazing yet? No, it doesn't feel amazing yet. What can we do to make it amazing, right? Because success is not accidental. And so, but by creating a high-performing culture, and I guess, even a habit in yourself of high performance, it comes from a series of important steps. And, those steps are repeated again and again to ensure that chain continues, right? And having these moments like quarterly, not just quarterly, but quarterly is a big review moment, where you are reviewing your progress. You're reviewing how far you've come before you look ahead, right? So by reviewing how far you've come, you want to do that in two ways. First of all, you want to acknowledge how far you've come, because when you can see that progress and find ways to look at what you've done, pull out the wins, put your focus on what you have done well, what the progress has been. You fill your cup, your mindset and your motivation and your sense of success in yourself is replenished when you look at the good first. But then you do need to acknowledge the brutal facts, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, and you do that without taking on any certainly we need to take responsibility for it all, for sure. But, you don't want to have a negative kind of I'm a failure type reaction to this. It's just about learning. So you really want to pull out what are the learnings. Don't waste those, right? Even the mistakes that we all inevitably make, they're not really mistakes. They're all good, fantastic fodder for you to improve, and then to use all of that information, all of that learning to plan what you need to do next to make sure that you are becoming amazing, right? Or your business is becoming amazing. And to be the best that you can be, you have to keep going around in that circle, of addressing what needs to be done. Well, starting by, having this review, and you're looking at what progress has been made, making sure that you're coming at this from a positive mindset because you have filled your cup first. And then looking at the brutal facts of what's been happening, taking the learnings from those, formulating those really thorough plans, moving into the implementation, and then you come back to the review, right? And because, you never know what is going to change or what adjustments need to be made. And things do change. The market is always moving. Your customer base is always changing. The economy is changing. Technological platforms are changing. Digital platforms are changing. Consumer demand is changing. There's new product and innovations being launched. Things are always changing, right? And so you never know what is going to change, what pivots you might need to make, except for the fact that you're going to have to make some, right? And so therefore this, this notion that success is not accidental and that we need to approach it in this way is so critical. Number 4, and I'm pretty sure they both were talking about this, probably any successful entrepreneur is going to say this, is it's really important to know your numbers. You need to know your numbers off the top of your head, top and bottom line numbers in terms of your, your actual financials. But then also in terms of what's happening with attracting and converting customers as well. Obviously we talk about that a lot in terms of digital marketing and all of those performance metrics. But, you absolutely need to know, what are you doing that is attracting new customers? Is it working or not? And why? And then, being number and data focused is going to help you to learn and grow. And importantly, it's going to help you avoid doing things the same way simply because it's how they've always been done, because that, as Caroline Creswell says, is the most dangerous phrase that you could ever hear in business. And it's definitely, if you ever catch yourself saying, like what I said earlier, that, maybe March has been a bit rubbish, but you can't understand because you're doing everything that you did last year and it worked then, why is it not working now? We can't just do things the way they've always been done and assume that that's always going to work, right? So knowing your numbers and being a number and data focused person in business owner is absolutely critical. And if you decide to work with us, those of you who are already working with us and with me, you're probably already up to your armpits with spreadsheets, but we have developed a lot of tools and processes as well, just to help make that as simple to execute on, as well as simple to understand your numbers as humanly possible. So then number 5, and both of them actually spoke about this in their interviews, is what can you do now to take your next step forward from wherever you are right now? And, obviously, both of these women are running businesses that they both, they own them outright. They're turning over hundreds of millions of dollars a year right now. It can be so easy for you and I to just look at that kind of level of success and be intimidated by it. Like, I could never possibly hope to achieve anything close to that. I don't have enough money to invest in my business, blah, 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 blah. Caroline Creswell literally started with nothing. Like, it was such a teeny tiny little business that it should give everyone hope, realistically. So what she talked about is, like, if you are at the startup stage, don't hope to get your products into Coles or Woolworths just yet, but instead, go and exhibit at local markets, get customers tasting your products, get feedback from your customers. What can you do from where you are right now to take that next step forward? And every time that you approach things in that way, you move forward, right? It might not be taking massive leaps or bounds, but you are moving forward. And that's the important thing. I think there's that concept of becoming 1% better every day. And then eventually the compound interest on that becomes a snowball and you really start to grow very quickly. Both Caroline and Tanya spoke about how in the early days of their business, they were doing everything. Like, Caroline talks about how she would, be making the product. She would be, getting on the phone to potential stockists. She would be, going to markets and selling at markets. She would deliver product to the supermarkets in her beat up old car. She talked about, she would go into the supermarkets and when the staff weren't looking, she would shift her products from the bottom shelf to the top shelf where they could be seen more easily by customers. I mean, like, just doing everything. And then Tanya said the same thing. Like, she was working with suppliers. She was taking delivery of the stock. She was driving the stock to the stores. She was taking it out and, hanging it out on the shelves and the racks. She was serving the customers. She was cleaning the stores, everything. And this is how we start. It's sweat equity to begin with. We do everything. We just roll up our sleeves and get on with it without necessarily having big wads of cash to invest in your business. And in fact, I think sometimes people end up with the better success without that, because you have to get scrappy, you have to be entrepreneurial in your creative problem solving, but also just coming back to that notion of what action can you take now to take a step forward from wherever you are right now. And that's the important part. So those are the 5 thoughts that I really took from these really fascinating interviews, really engaging interviews. I really wanted to share them with you today. Think about that notion in particular of, is it amazing yet? And what can you do to make it amazing? Looking back before you can look forward. Going slow, planning in advance so that you can move forwards and execute more efficiently, and establishing that circle of success where you can, continue to plan, implement, review, and, keep going around in that circle of success. One last thing that I want to share with you, if you like to write down your numbers, like we do talk about knowing your numbers, right? If you want to write them down and you want to have a place to write this sort of stuff that is really made for e-commerce. You guys are all e-commerce business owners, right? If you want something that's really designed for e-commerce to help you with, the planning and the reviews and kind of talks you through it. So if you don't know what kind of numbers or metrics to record, then grab a copy of our Productpreneur Success Planner book. If you're watching the video, I'm showing it on the video, but we'll include a link to it on the podcast show notes as well. Or you can just head to scalemyshopifystore.com and you'll find it in the menu. But this can be just such a really useful tool for planning and also documenting your metrics and doing these reviews, because it's got a lot of the exercises documented in there. It's like a fill in the blanks type scenario, just makes it super easy for you to stay on track or to plan and then stay on track and help hold yourself accountable. So it's only $59 Australian. If you want to get a copy, you can just head to scalemyshopifystore.com and go from there. That's what I have for you today. Hope you've enjoyed this little slightly different episode. And I will, of course, also link to those other two podcasts that I was talking about. If you're heading into a long weekend and you need to binge listen to something, go and check it out. There's no kickback for me for recommending it. It's just something that I've really enjoyed recently and I wanted to share. So that's it from me this week. Look forward to being with you on the show again next week. Bye for now.